Hello YouTube, this is Neon. Today I'm going to be talking about a really horrible scheming period in my life when I was 12 and how it all blew up in my face. It's an experience that has stayed with me. This happened when I was 12 years old, so to the best of my memory, so over 30 years ago. I was the only one of my siblings that was allowed to go to Pauline's house, was allowed and wanted to go to Pauline's house. In order to be able to continue to go to her house, I began to scheme. I'd come home and I would gossip to my biological mother that Pauline had said this, Pauline had said that, so as to make it seem like I was going, not because Pauline treated me better, and it was way better than being at home where the abuse was extreme. So I didn't want it to look like, oh, I'd rather be with Pauline than to be with you, to my female progenitor, my biological mother. So that's how I would scheme, so as to make it look like I didn't really want to be with Pauline over her. I would gossip to her about Pauline, and I would tell her Pauline said this, or any kind of gossip. So stuff that might make Pauline look bad. This way Mary wouldn't get jealous and basically say you can't go there anymore. Mary was getting something out of allowing me to continue to go to Pauline's house. Since on top of all the abusive and dysfunctional ways that woman lived, gossip was one of the things that she liked. Dirty little gossip. So one day upon doing this, I was telling Mary, my biological mother, I was telling that woman, Pauline said this and that about you or whatever. And one of my siblings, who was a total mama's boy, he went and called Pauline and cussed her out. He snuck and got the phone and cussed her out. None of us knew until Pauline drove really quick and kind of rushed into our yard. She didn't really park in the driveway. She kind of jumped right into the front yard and, you could say, slammed on her brakes. We all went outside to see what was happening, and there was Pauline in her vehicle sobbing. She told that my sibling had cussed her out, and I saw what all issues I had caused from all this gossip and scheming that I was doing, playing both ends basically. So he ended up getting a beating, and it was really strange because Mary really wanted to beat the hell out of him, but then it was, I was just protecting you, Mom, I was trying to stand up for you. And so he ended up getting sort of a mild beating, because she was kind of like impressed that he stood up for her and would go to those lengths of cussing out an adult, but was really pissed off as well because sometimes Pauline would take her places, and so she really needed Pauline as well. I thought I was going to get beaten too, because I'm the one who caused all of this. I ended up not getting beaten though. So that ruined it for me. I was no longer allowed to go to Pauline's house. I don't think I ever went there again. Pauline was a lady who was unloved, that I know of. She had no children. She was morbidly obese. She was barely even able to get up the ramp to get into her house. One of the things that I would do when I was at her place is I would nurse wounds that she had on the back of her calves, because she couldn't reach those wounds. So I'd have to change her bandages because these wounds wouldn't heal properly, and they would constantly sort of leak. I don't know if you could call it pus, but kind of like plasma, a thick, watery fluid. I would change her bandages. At 12 years old, I was doing this, and I would massage her feet and rub lotion on her feet, which was fine. I liked Pauline. It wasn't a big deal to me, and the little that I got there was so much more than I got at home, mainly that I wasn't going to get beat up for saying the wrong thing, or I wasn't going to be cussed out. I would get a sandwich or a glass of juice, stuff like that that's basic, that if you come from a typical middle class home, you probably take for granted. But if you're on welfare, by the end of the month, there's no money for that. We might be left with butter tortillas, crackers and mayonnaise, whatever canned vegetables were in the kitchen. That was like, to this day, I'm not sure what some of those vegetables were. There really wasn't there wasn't food. So being at Pauline's was great compared to being at home. Being at Pauline's was like way better. So I have to pause this. Hello YouTube, I'm back. My computer started playing again in the background. So Pauline died sometime later. It was very sad. Her husband didn't love her. He worked for Roar, some plane company, airplanes. I remember he would come home from work. Once in a blue moon, I might spend the night. But anyway, he would come home from work, and he barely even wanted to kiss her. One day, she washed the dishes and left cheese. A little bit of cheese was on one of the dishes, and he found it. He exploded and started yelling at her. I was shocked. I hadn't seen this man mistreat her like that. At her funeral, I remember one of my siblings reached in, pulled up her dress basically where her chest was, and kind of peeked under, and we could see her body was wrapped in plastic underneath the dress. And her husband had said, don't touch her, don't ruffle her up. But he died too. Hank died as well. This was 30 years ago. I remember one day, we were either coming home from church or something, and this day I happened to be riding in Pauline's vehicle, and Pauline was going to tell me something, and she says, "Oh, never mind, 'cause you'll tell." And referring to the fact that I was snitching on her and tattling on her for stupid crap, scheming. That hurt greatly, but it was survival. As I look back on it, if I had just told her the truth, we're beaten, we're mistreated, we're cussed at, we're beaten in almost any way you can imagine, and being at your place is like being in heaven, and the only way I can continue to come here is if I pretend like I don't really want to come that much, and it's more about me talking mess about you, then Mary, that'll give Mary something to gossip about for her pathetic life. It'll give her something, that gossip adds something to her pathetic life, besides beating on us all the time and overeating. Mary was morbidly obese as well. I always thought, you know, if I had told Pauline the truth, Pauline, she might have agreed with it. She might have said, great. She might have played along with it and had ideas of stuff we could gossip about, and I don't know. She was a pretty decent lady, and I regret having schemed like I did. And that's it. That experience has really stayed with me. Like, subscribe, share, comment, commercials, recommend my videos. Do one or more of these things if you like this video. Thank you. Best wishes.